asked me fairly recently was that if I thought there was any episodes of SpongeBob that would have a largely different matter which seasons episodes like A Pal for Gary, One Course Meal, or The Splinter aired on. And for the most part, the answer is no. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't matter which season for Gary, One Course Meal, or The Splinter aired on. They'd still be seen as pretty bad. They'd still be seen as Course Meal and The Splinter aired on. They'd still be seen as pretty bad. And provided everything else about the episodes is the same, they'll be in the minority opinion of I'm What's Stupid or The Great Snail Race if they aired in season 6 or 7. Course Meal or The Splinter aired. They'll be in the minority opinion of I'm What's Stupid or The Great Snail Race if they aired in season 6 or 7. Falls into that category. And that would be, it would be very easy for itself has a very interesting attitude towards modern SpongeBob. It seems to pretend that the terrible episodes that came out before, the answer is no. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't matter which seasons episodes like A Pal for Gary, One Course Meal, or The Splinter aired on. They'd still be seen as pretty bad. And provided every terrible episodes that came out before it, as such, it tends to dip in what makes bad SpongeBob episodes horrible. SpongeBob is an idiot. Patrick is a prick. And at other times, the episode seems to ignore some of the horrible things that have happened. The kitchen with Sandy didn't exist. It's something that can be very hard to ignore, I'll admit that right now. And these quote-unquote problems probably wouldn't exist at all if this
Undercover? Yeah, well, I'll see if they can take time from their busy schedule to see you.
Nice. Ah, yes, Patchy. Considering for it looks really good from what I can tell. Although I don't know. Ah, yes, the animation. The most interesting motion. It looks really good from what I can tell. Although I don't know why most of the characters look like they were made out of. The SpongeBob characters were supposed to be fuzzy. I say from what I can tell because when it comes to TV, I can compare it to. I mean, there's Glenn Martin, which I'm going to review immediately after Elf Bowling, but that's about it. And comparing this to something like Coraline or The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I'm going to review immediately after Elf Bowling, but that's about it. For the sake of keeping things ordered, I'll talk about SpongeBob and Patchy separately. Fair thing you need to know about Patchy in this episode. It's worlds better than his appearance in Truth or Square. That's not saying much, I know, but it's a place to start. Let me give you the 100% fair thing you need to know about Patchy in this episode. It's worlds better than his appearance in Truth. Much, I know, but it's a place to start. This is for two reasons. The most important is that he doesn't overstay his welcome. A SpongeBob Christmas altogether is about 22 minutes. SpongeBob Christmas altogether is about 22 minutes, and Patrick doesn't even take up half of it. Hell, I don't think he even makes up a quarter of it. The second reason is that he's not a creeper this time. The worst thing that he does is steal a mail truck in order to get his letter to Santa, and Patchy doesn't even take up half of it. Hell, I don't think he even makes up a quarter of it. The second reason is that he's not a creeper this time. He's not a creeper this time. The worst thing that he does is steal a mail truck in order to get his letter to Santa while holding the mailman hostage. Try and read that. Yeah. That's it! Buddy and Patchy having a back and forth argument, trying to find their way to the North Pole. Eventually they crash and do that classic gag where cartoon characters are starting to be having a back and forth argument. North Pole. Eventually they crash and do that classic gag where cartoon characters are starting to starve and want to. And there is something charming about it. And if you're wondering, Patchy does get his come up. Great. If you don't, they won't take up too much of your time. It's a musical number because this episode actually is a musical. The musical numbers in this episode are definitely some of the better ones in modern SpongeBob. Unlike too much of your time. I think that it was worth the effort, but I'm more interested in talking about the SpongeBob part of the episode. On their own, they're pleasant to listen to, they move the plot along nicely, and they sound very in theme. And yes, the Santa puppet does look pretty bad. Sound very in theme. And yes, the Santa puppet does look pretty bad. Considering how good the other puppets are though, I'm pretty sure that that's intentional. It does look pretty funny. And season 8, it probably won't give anyone nightmares. Now we come to... And if there's anything I didn't like about this episode, it would be him. But he's not... Anything I didn't like about this episode, it would be him. But he's not in it for long. And when he does try these stunts to capture Santa, and people tend to pick apart those little bits in my review, thinking that it undermines my... between a flaw that ruins an episode, and a flaw that provides a minor distraction. Think of it like this. SpongeBob not wearing his helmet in Sandy's tree dome is like a spelling mistake. SpongeBob not wearing his helmet in Sandy's tree dome is like a spelling mistake on an otherwise really good essay. And a bad episode like Face Freeze, it's a problem, but not the problem. Minor things don't really destroy an episode for me, unless it's something like House Fancy or Peter Problems. And this episode does have a few smaller problems, but it doesn't ruin the overall product. On an otherwise really good essay. And a bad episode like Face Freeze, have a few smaller problems, but it doesn't ruin the overall product. Despite what many people think, I don't demand perfection, but it is nice when I can get it. And the positives of this episode significantly outweigh the negatives. Not only sets up the plot, but it puts each of the major characters into the episode. So many SpongeBob specials ignore the secondary characters and instead resort to padding it out with in this episode, but it seems really in line with his original personality. We learn that Plankton has been naughty, and there's something here that I really like, a freeze frame bonus. Spending a little extra time on something that most people probably the screen, we see that some of Plankton's evil deeds are larceny, littering, taunting puppies, and neglecting grooming. And due to these deeds, Plankton constantly gets a stocking full of coal. Karen tells him that if we get something better, fruitcake laced with jerktonium, which basically makes people big fat jerks. The first person Plankton sees is SpongeBob, and SpongeBob does eat a bunch of the fruitcake. But some fruitcakes. SpongeBob decides that everyone should eat the fruitcake, and has seemingly failed. I really shouldn't have to explain why it's different to something like the Krabby Chronicle, right? SpongeBob doesn't know, even after eating dozens of fruitcakes. SpongeBob decides that everyone failed. I really shouldn't have to explain why it's different to something like the Krabby Chronicle, right? SpongeBob doesn't know that he's doing something wrong. And the show's villain getting him to do these things. SpongeBob goes and starts feeding everyone fruitcake, which turns them into jerks. It's becoming more and more clear to me that I probably should have reviewed an episode like someone... something else planned for that particular episode. But in many episodes, the people are horrendous jerks without the influence of fruitcake. And here's what this episode comes down to, for me at least. I'm not in the way of what should happen. This is how the people fly. Not to mention that their jerkiness is actually funny for once. Explode and put Squidward in...
Tattooed on my hard drive.
Now where was I? Oh yeah, I saved SpongeBob digital DNA.
Explode and put Squidward in...
I forget.
Explode and put jerktonium because of his innocent love of the holiday, which is definitely something I'm willing to buy. It's better than having him defy the plot because he's the main character. It's better than having him defy the plot because he's the main, with reasons that are relevant for me to pick on the flaws of this particular episode.
This isn't okay.
What?
The slapstick in this episode is actually funny and not painful for once. SpongeBob eventually finds out that everyone is acting like a horrible jerk, except Patrick. So we sit to the slapstick in this episode. I am now under your control.
Stop laughing.
Stop laughing.
Don't repeat everything I say.
I won't repeat everything you say.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Did you just say excellent because I said excellent?
No.
Excellent.
Excellent. SpongeBob tries to get help. He goes to Squidward. The fruitcake falls into the Christmas magic analyzer that she was building earlier. An actual defined villain and an antagonist is doing it. It's a start. Okay, it's a start. At Sandy's house, and through some shenanigans, the fruitcake falls into the Christmas magic analyzer that she was building earlier. And through some shenanigans, the fruitcake falls into the Christmas magic analyzer that she was building earlier. They learn that the fruitcake is laced with jerktonium.
I don't think I look very much like Shelley Winters, but it's more just how I feel.
Your heart, but everyone else needs an antidote, which just so happens to be a song. Now, this song was made before the episode, probably before it was even planned out. I don't mind it that much because they didn't make the entire episode just to. The lyrics are way more well thought out, and the singing is far more under control. It's also a clever way to show off what they can do with the stop-motion animation. This song manages to save everyone at Bikini Bottom, but unfortunately, it seems to be too. And the singing is far more under control. It's also a clever way to show off what they can do with the stop-motion animation. This song manages to save everyone at Bikini Bottom, but animation. This song manages to save everyone at Bikini Bottom, but unfortunately, it seems to be too late. Everyone at Bikini Bottom, but unfortunately, it's. Ball. He's over there right now. Destroy Christmas, it attacks Santa, and it becomes even bigger. And we have an action-packed climax. It's actually pretty good. When it's destroyed, they find out that the robot belonged to Plankton and they bury him in coal. And that was it. Destroys the episode, or even really harms it. The important characters are completely in character. The story is completely coherent. And she vanished from the story. And besides that, she probably should have been hibernating. Santa only came to Bikini Bottom after they knew what Christmas was. Still, it's nice, and that's the one thing that I really like to say about SpongeBob episodes.